You have a seating preference?
Oh, I don't care where you go sit.
Alright.
Again, I'm Brent Kirkpatrick. I'm with BCI.
Tischler.
Okay.
Before we get started, we'll just do the little brief as to why we're here and what we're doing. Obviously, we're here to talk about the incident at Walmart. After crime scene cleared it, and the chief decided that he wanted BCI, the Special Investigations Unit, to come in to do an independent review of what happened. So that's why Tish and I and a few other agents are here conducting interviews. And obviously, you responded to the scene. Since you were there, we just need to know a little bit about what you did and what you saw. Hopefully, we're not going to take up too much of your time because, if I'm correct, you're scheduled off today, right?
Yeah, I was off, so. But, no, that's fine. Yeah, the captain said, there's a block of time, and you guys are trying to want to get people in, so,
And we get this done, and we won't have to worry about it later.
Exactly, so. No, that's fine. I'm good to help out and get everything done as quick as we can, so.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yep.
Start off with the easy questions, the biographical stuff. So if you could you say and spell your first and last name for me?
Yep, Chad, C-H-A-D,
Okay.
Lindsey, L-I-N-D-S-E-Y.
All right, you care if I call you Chad? Is that
No,
right?
that's fine,
Right. Chad, what's your rank here?
Detective.
Okay. How long have you been a detective?
About a year.
Okay, and before that?
Patrol officer.
Okay, and how long have you been with Beavercreek?
About 12 years.
Okay. Any other service with another agency before coming to Beavercreek?
No.
It's all here?
Yep.
Okay, great. Your unit number, sir?
85.
So if we heard a radio call sign for 85, it would be you?
Yep.
Okay.
Should be 2. The time I got on scene and the time I cleared. I think the only time I was on the radio.
Okay. What's your schedule? Do you have a normal 9 to 5 and call-outs when necessary?
Yep, 8 to 4. Yep.
8 to 4?
Yep.
Monday through Friday?
Yep.
And then call-outs when necessary?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now that we got that taken care of, let's go into the details. When did you get notification?
I think it was about 20, 50 hours.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
And how did you get notified?
Well, I was out jogging around the neighborhood. Captain Grodd called my work phone and then my house phone. Then another detective, Dan Kroll, called my personal phone that I had on me while I was jogging. So he's like, "Hey, did Grodd get a hold of you?" No. So then he told me what was going on. And my wife drove around and found me because she had talked to Captain Grodd. So
all right.
It's kind of screwed up, but that's how I found out about it.
Captain Grodd, is he your immediate supervisor?
Yeah.
Okay. So you found about it through the roundabout way of
Right,
those
exactly.
telephone
And then I called him, the captain, and he filled me in on what was going on.
What did he tell you?
He said to respond to Walmart. He's calling everybody out, the detectives, all 4 detectives, referencing an officer-involved shooting. And he didn't really have any other details beyond that, just to respond to Walmart.
Okay. I assume you get ready, you respond. What time were you 3-7 on scene?
I was probably there, I'm not sure, 9:30.
Did you mark in with dispatch
Yeah,
when you were on?
yeah, I called on scene.
Okay.
So there should be a time record of it.
Okay. And at the time you responded, did you have more information about what happened other than, respond to Walmart, there's an officer involved?
Yeah, I talked to Brad Piasecki, the other detective.
Okay.
He told me that he was going to Miami Valley to talk to the suspect, see what was going on, evaluate, because the suspect had went to Miami Valley. I talked to Detective Curd on his way in, and we kind of talked about what we were going to do as far as with the evidence collection stuff with the camera, evidence markers. We have a total station device that takes recording, distance, like a survey tool that for measurements and stuff like that. So we had a conversation about getting the stuff we would need for evidence collection. So we kind of discussed that he would head to the building initially. I would go to the scene because I live closer, and Captain Grodd said to go ahead and go to the scene. So I was going to go to the scene. Rodney was going to go to the building, and then if anything changed, I was supposed to call him and let him know. So.
Okay. So you got on scene, and what did you do?
So when I got there, I met with Captain Greil first, Sergeant Molnar, Sergeant Hummel, all around the command center area that they had set up for the command post. And Sergeant Molnar kind of gave me a brief overview of what happened. Um, um, and then at that point, talked to Captain Greil again. He had said that he'd sent Detective Kroll to the police department to gather up the evidence collection stuff that we might need. Um, and so after I had the basic information, there were some groups of people that were standing out in the parking lot. So I, grabbed my clipboard and everything and went to talk to see if there were any witnesses or see what these people were that were hanging around, see if they'd seen anything or heard anything, see if there was any other witnesses that hadn't been contacted yet. And I talked to.
Had everyone been talked to?
Everybody, at least briefly. Now, the first person I talked to was actually Tasha's mom.
Okay.
Her mom was standing there with some family members, so I talked to her. I don't think she had given any statement yet to an officer or anything, so I asked her, what she knew about the situation, why she was there, and because she had talked to Tasha, that's why she was there, because Tasha had called her immediately after the thing and told her what was going on, and so she came up there for Tasha's sake. And she told me the story leading up to it, what she knew about why Tasha was there. And she had told me that Tasha was they were having a cookout at their house in Fairborn. They needed to get some supplies for s'mores, things like that. Tasha left, went down to Cincinnati area to pick up, is it Mr. Crawford? Right? Pick him up at an outlet mall down in Cincinnati area. She went down there, got him, and then they went back to Walmart with the purpose of getting these s'mores. And that's what Tasha's mom had. That's the information she had, and that's all that she knew about what they were doing.
Okay.
And she didn't have any other details about the incident. I'd asked her if Tasha had told her anything, what was going on. And she just said, "Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea." She was worried about Tasha and what was going on. And at that time, Tasha was with an officer, and she was actually being transported to the police department to be interviewed by Detective Curd. So Detective Curd had stopped out at the scene for a couple minutes and was following the officer to the police department to interview Tasha. So, after I got that little bit of information from her mom, they just kind of waited there out in the parking lot for a little while. And I talked to, there was another group of Walmart employees I talked to, but none of them had seen or heard anything. They were just kind of out there waiting, I think, until they were dismissed. Or
do you know if anyone created a list of those Walmart employees?
Not that I know
I take
of.
it you did.
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Not that I know of.
Had anyone in that group that you spoke with, had anyone seen anything or witnessed any of the events?
No, not in that group. There was one guy that they said that had written a statement, I think, to Officer Bondi, because Officer Bondi had gathered up maybe 2 or 3 statements. Okay. One of the employees had written a statement for him, but he had already left. They cut the manager, whoever cut him loose. But I did ask them, if they'd had a roster of everybody that was working and all that kind of stuff. So they said they could provide that list if we needed it at some point.
Did you ever see it?
No, I never saw it.
Okay.
No.
Go ahead.
Let's see. So what else? So after talking to Tasha's mom, at that point, was kind of, I think I was standing around at the command post, waiting until, we were figuring out exactly, if you guys were going to get involved. I know that the sergeant had called the prosecutor's office, so we're waiting on prosecutor to come on scene and all that kind of stuff.
And at this time, hadn't made entry into the building? Had you been back?
Yeah, I went back at, actually, after talking to Tasha's mom,
Yes.
and targeted them. I went back into the building, and this was, and actually, well, I went back into the building, talked to Officer Bondi. He was the only guy on the inner perimeter at that point.
Okay.
The part that was taped off where the scene, the actual immediate scene was. He was in there, so I went in there just to talk to him briefly, just kind of get a cursory look at the scene. Um, I was probably in there a few minutes talking to him. Came back out. That's when I talked to the Walmart employees,
Okay.
the group that was standing out by the door at that point. So,
Before you go on,
yeah.
how close did you get to the actual scene?
I didn't. I was on the outside of the tape at that point.
Okay. Could you see the weapon from where you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else that you observed?
Yeah, so I could see the weapon. Bondi pointed out two shell casings that were near the door to the garden center, and then the
Okay.
one that was inside the garden center. So he pointed those out. He pointed out the gun. Obviously, I could see blood on the floor. There was, in the other aisle was all the equipment, medical supplies and stuff that they had used. So I asked Bondi if that was from us, or, he said, yeah, it was what the officers were using, at the time.
Okay.
So, so I observed all that from behind the crime scene tape that we had set up. Yeah, so after that, after talking to him and him pointing things out to me, then I went back outside and kind of waited at that point until, I don't know exactly how long. It was several minutes where we were waiting outside around the command post, and at some point then, I don't have the exact timeline. I know Officer Stahl was directed to start keeping the timeline of everybody coming in and out.
Okay.
At some point then, myself, Detective Kroll had got on scene, Captain Greil, we went back into Walmart. At this point, we got more of an in-depth look at the scene. We actually went into the scene inside the crime scene tape.
Okay.
Went up to the gun, looked at the gun. At that point, that's when Captain Greil said, "This looks like a BB gun or a pellet gun." And just by looking at it, I mean, obviously we didn't touch it or anything like that.
Sure.
But just looking at it, it's when he observed that.
So no one disturbed the scene,
Correct.
other than the observations you made.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So we made some more observations. Obviously look around if there's any more shell casings or anything else. Didn't see any other points of interest, any other evidence other than what we'd already known about or what we could see right there. Trying to think. I think after that, at some point, we went back. It may have been at that. No. Initially, that was when we were looking at it. Then after that, myself and Detective Kroll went to the surveillance room, the loss prevention room, where they have the cameras. Met with the loss prevention employee for Walmart.
Do you recall the name of that individual?
I don't remember her name.
Okay.
Yeah. And
female?
Female.
Okay.
I think blonde hair. I should know her name because I've talked to her before on other cases.
Would you recognize it if you heard
Oh,
it?
yeah, I think so.
The last name wasn't Barry, was it?
Yeah, I wouldn't recognize it.
Okay. I was just looking at the log before we came
Yeah.
in here. I saw the name Shannon Barry, and I didn't.
That's it. That's
Shannon Barry.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And so, so we went back into the camera room with her, and she pulls up the video. That was the first time we'd seen the video. So I was back there for a pretty good amount of time. When she first pulled it up, there were, it was her and probably 4 or 5 other Walmart employees were in there.
Okay.
So when we saw the video, she pulled it up. At that point, I asked if they could all leave, while me and Detective Kroll, looked it over.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
We've come to understand that there's like 126 cameras. What particular camera view were you looking at when you
Yeah,
were watching the video?
the camera that shows down the aisle, that it looked like it was kind of above the inside of the store, above the lawn and garden door.
Okay.
So the lawn and garden doors, I guess from your perspective on this side, it's looking down the aisle this way where the suspect was standing.
In that pet section.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
I got you.
Yep. So it was that view that we looked at initially. Um, we had the Walmart employees leave while we looked at it some more, and I stayed in there while Detective Kroll went and got the captains. By that time, the prosecutor was on scene, so the captains came in, the chief came in, prosecutor came in, and so we reviewed the video with them.
Okay.
So,
And at this time, you haven't downloaded anything.
correct.
You're just toggling using their own equipment,
Exactly.
correct?
Yep. So we reviewed it all with them at that point. And I think after that, we went back to the scene, and with the prosecutor uh, and the chief and the captains. Um,
The prosecutor and assistant prosecutor?
it was the first assistant prosecutor, Suzanne Schmidt,
Okay.
and then her, the investigator for the prosecutor's office.
Okay, what's his name?
Fred Meadows.
Okay.
So they were there from the prosecutor's office. Then the chief and the captains were back there. Um, and then after observing the scene, and after they observed it, then we went back to the sporting goods area where the guns, possibly would have been. At that point, we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Went back there to look to see if it came from there. And then when we got back there, we found the empty box, and we just assumed, okay, well, this is probably where he got it from.
Let me ask you this: did you take a chance to look at the box? Did the description or the picture on the box match the
Yeah.
weapon that you saw
Yep.
at the scene?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that matched, and we used an object to flip the lid open just to make sure that it was empty. So the box was empty and it matched, and so we didn't see any packaging. We didn't know if the actual gun had packaging around it, but we didn't see any of that anywhere. So after we saw the empty box, we went back to the video room, and um, Shannon was back there, I think, at that point, or we got Shannon's help so she could go and look through the sporting goods and see if she could find the time where he went back there. And she did locate that where he went back. You could see him coming into the sporting goods empty-handed, didn't have anything. Go to that section of the aisle where the gun was. You can't see him actually taking it out of the box, but you could see him go right up next to it because the way the angle was. You see him go right up next to it, walk down, away from the camera to the end of the aisle, come back the adjacent aisle holding the gun. So
okay. He enters the area, no gun. As he's exiting the area, he's got a gun.
right,
Okay.
right. Yep. So at that point, and we just asked her if she could keep looking and track back and find everything she could with him on it when he entered the store and where he walked through the store and all that. And that's pretty much, at that point. I don't remember exactly when, but it pretty much left Walmart at that point, and from that point on, kind of standing around outside, talking to the other detectives. At one point, Officer Williams' vehicle was still parked out in front of Walmart where he had parked it when he got on scene. I went to the vehicle, checked the in-car video to see if there was any video of him, when he would have pulled up, because if he was on a code 3 run, it would automatically activate the camera. So I went in there and checked that. There wasn't any video that I saw that had been activated. And then pretty much at that point, kind of just standing around talking to the guys, talked to the chief, told him that the BCI was contacted. They were going to be handling the evidence processing, and
okay.
so that's pretty much it at that point. I can't think of anything else.
Okay. Was there ever any discussion about you folks actually doing the investigative part of it, or were you just going to wait till BCI crime scene cleared it and then begin that process?
We were informed that BCI was going to be definitely going to be processing the scene, and then the chief was still considering, the entire investigation.
Okay.
And I think he was probably, discussing it with the prosecutor and all that kind of stuff. But then eventually, at some point, then he told us that BCI was going to be handling the whole investigation and kind of explained his reasons for that, and we were all in agreement and all that. So,
Were you made aware of that fact before you left the scene,
yes.
or was that later?
Yeah, that was before we left.
Okay. What
Yeah.
time was it that you finally left?
I left probably about 1:15, 1:30, somewhere in there.
A.M.?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. I mean, is there anything else that
I'm
you
trying to
think
think
is
if there's
important?
anything else. I collected, the other thing, when I first got there, I collected 3 written statements from the county, some county deputies that had gathered written statements. It may have been 4, 3 or 4 written statements from people on scene.
Okay.
So as I was doing checking with the witnesses and stuff like that, I'd gotten those written statements from the county deputies. I think 2 of them were pharmacy employees and 2 were customers in the pharmacy. So they wrote out statements about hearing the gunshots and what they did. So I have those statements. I was going to get those to Captain Gryle when I finish up my
Okay. That's
narrative.
what I was going to ask
Yeah.
you. So then you answered my last question. You haven't finished your narrative yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, yeah.
So I'll get that to him, and I think that's the only. So I've got those statements to give, and I don't have anything else to turn in other than those in my narrative. I think that's about it as far as my involvement, what I saw and what I did. I can't think of anything else.
Okay. Tish,
I think you
covered it?
covered it.
All right.
Yeah, if anything else comes to mind, I'll let you
Yeah,
know. But
well, we appreciate you coming
yeah,
in,
no problem.
especially on your schedule.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. No problem. Thanks for your help on this, guys.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.